My first impression of Anthony, I do vividly remember it's actually very funny. So I was at one of his gigs with a friend.
God, yeah.
And he just played a show in Brighton, which is
I
a
was young.
seaside town.
It was
like 4 years ago. And you just played a show, and my friend was like, oh, you should go say hello to Anthony. Like, he's really cool. He's a producer. Like, you'd really like him. Come say hey. And I was like, okay. So I went up to him, and he was so busy. He just kind of went.
I just got off stage.
He was like, hi. And then just kind of carried on with what he's doing. And I was like, oh, okay.
He's not very
nice
cool.
to meet you. So he was actually really rude the first time I met him.
Yeah.
And then I met you again, and you were lovely. So,
Made up for it.
You did make up for it.
Yeah.
What did you think of his music?
I really liked it. I thought it was
I
amazing.
think your boyfriend was a fan.
Yeah, my boyfriend loved it, which is why I was at the gig. So like, I had to kind of like it. I was like, yeah, I love this band. They're amazing. And then since getting to know you and listening to your records, like, they're really good. I loved his songwriting.
Thanks.
So
Thanks.
no worries, man. No worries.
And so your friend kind of suggested you'd meet him. How long between that did you actually talk about music?
That was the first time I met, and then it was
2 years after.
2 years after that I bumped into you again.
Yeah. And we were on a session together, a recording session. And then once we'd finished the day, we were kind of like, oh, today went really well, let's just talk about music kind of thing.
Yeah, and hang out and write, and we just started writing.
Yeah, and we found out that night that we listened to the same music, like whilst we were growing up, and so we had exactly the same music taste, which is quite rare really, so it was really cool.
What set up that first writing session?
It was a mutual friend.
Again, it was the same friend that had introduced me to you in Brighton all those years ago. And I was recording a split EP with him, and he'd obviously said, oh, get Anthony on board to produce it because he's really good. And that's how we met. You were recording
bizarre.
me.
Yeah, thanks, Luke.
And what was your impression of Josephine at the meeting?
There was like a local venue in my town called the Nags Head. Remember that?
Yeah, it's a horrible place.
It's really horrible, but it's one of my favourite venues. I love it. And Josephine was playing upstairs in this. It's kind of like a pub, I guess, isn't it? Right? Yeah. And Josephine was playing on stage with her piano, and I went with a friend to go watch her. We'd never met, and then no one was doing the lights, so there was just like the house lights on. So I turned them off, and then there were a few lights pointing on stage. So I just did the lights for your whole gig.
Yeah.
And then you're like, she was on stage. She couldn't see the crowd. And she was like, thanks to whoever's doing the lights. And I was just there like, all right. And then did I speak to you that night?
You didn't speak to me, but you wrote down in your diary, you were like, email Josephine.
Yeah.
So clearly you thought I was incredible, right? That's the answer you're supposed to
Strong word.
But could you hear in each other's music before really knowing each other? Could you hear?
Yeah, I think we definitely had a respect and kind of
yeah.
intrigue in each other's music, and I was definitely intrigued by you as a songwriter and things. So, but never thought we'd be working together on this level.
Yeah.
And you mentioned having the same musical taste. So can you give me a couple examples? What kind of music?
Yeah. So we love Feist.
Okay.
We love Efterklang. We love Angus and Julia Stone. We love the Staves. We love Death Cab for Cutie.
Yep.
We love James Blake. We love Foles. We love Chili Gonzalez.
I think you're naming them all.
We love Joni Mitchell.
Yeah, we both grew up in kind of houses where Joni Mitchell was being played, and James Taylor, Cat Stevens. Who else was there from that?
Elton John.
Elton John. I went to see Elton John a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too.
You mentioned Joni Mitchell, Cat Stevens. Are those the artists where the songwriting part?
Yeah, definitely.
For sure, yeah. We grew up listening to songs in their purest form. It's like Joni Mitchell on a guitar, and totally connected with them as kids. So I think that's where this respect for the art of songwriting has grown from. Realising that you can't. I was about to say something rude. I was about to say polish a turd, but I shouldn't say that on camera.
You can say anything.
Yeah.
Well, you can't
hide a
polish
song.
A turd.
Yeah, in production, you can't improve things with production. You can enhance things, but you can't salvage a song with production. The song has to stand on its own.
That's a far more eloquent way of saying that.
So was this evident after that first session of writing together for the both of you?
It was.
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, the song was terrible. That the first song we wrote together was really bad.
I forgot what it's called.
You're gonna throw your life away.
Throw Your Life
That
Away.
one. Throw Your Life Away. Oh dear.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was bad. But yeah, we had like an instant chemistry.
Yeah, we wrote quite quickly
instant
together.
connection in terms of writing. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
And did you keep the song? Do you still have it somewhere?
It's somewhere.
Yeah, we've got
buried in iTunes somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, we say every idea we've ever written is somewhere. Exists in some iPhone recording or something.
And what was the first song then that you wrote together that you were proud of?
Sorry.
Probably.
I would say it was. To me, it's Body Gold.
Yeah, Body Gold probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm proud of them all in their own way, but they're all just pretty bad.
I think that was the one where we were like, oh, this could actually.
Yeah, so it's the
be
first
something
song.
outside
The
of
first
just
song we released as Oh Wonder was a song called Body Gold, which we actually wrote 2 and a bit years ago now.
At least, yeah.
And that was the first song that for us we were like, oh, this is cool. We should save this and do something with it. And we just left it on our iTunes for like 2 years before we actually released it. But we're glad we did because now we're here.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, no, you go.
Do you remember what sparked that song? What the initial spark was?
I think we were just very comfortable at that stage.
Yeah.
We suddenly slipped into like not really caring about egos and stuff when we were writing, or not egos, but
Yeah, I remember the formation of it. So I was at your house for some reason, and you'd gone out to drop your parents off at the
you were
airport.
at my parents' house.
And you'd left me in this room with a piano and were like, amuse yourself. And I remember I'd written like loads of stuff, and I'd written the opening line, which was, before you came out, my heart would never be much faster. And then I'd gone into something else that was really weird, and you came home and you were like, oh, I love that first line, but the chorus you've written is terrible, like, let's write something.
Yeah.
And then we kind of wrote it from there, and it was, because we'd been writing together for so long, I wasn't offended that he came in and said, well, that's terrible, but the first line's good.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, cool, let's make
The
a better
trust
song.
that-
Like, yeah.
Trusting that what the other person is saying is gonna do good things for the song. They're not just saying it for the sake of trying to put their
For sure. So that song
control
was
into
kind
it.
of, represents that like vulnerability and openness that we have, and it's like, if you don't like it, I'll just say, oh, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
And you'll say, oh, I'm not sure about that, and say, okay, we'll
Yeah.
leave it, let's come up with something else.
And I think we definitely needed 2 years to kind of get to that point.
Yeah, was there a learning curve of getting your ego out the way?
No.
Because
Yeah,
you both
definitely.
had your own thing before
Exactly,
writing together.
yeah. Because previous to this, I've always been the front of a band. You've always been the front of your project. So it's now just a balance of like everything we do now, I guess, right?
Yeah.
We've got to both do what's best for Oh Wonder, not just what's best for ourselves. And that's down to the writing, it's down to interviews, it's down to being on stage. It's all got to be for Oh Wonder now.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice not having to think about just yourself all the time.
Yeah.
And having to serve someone else's interests and needs, like, that's really important. And it's been a good lesson to learn, like, being dependent emotionally and creatively on someone else is cool. It's nice.
Yeah.
In terms of songwriting then, are there things that you've also learned from each other? Because you probably had your own way of doing things and then...
Yeah, definitely. So Josephine writes at a piano. You've always written a piano, right? And I had got into the habit, because I was starting to do electronic music, got into the habit of writing at like a keyboard with a computer and starting with drums and getting ahead of myself a little bit. So before I'd finished the actual lyrics and everything, I'd have a beat. And Josephine's made me realise that none of that's important until you've got a song, I think.
Thanks.
Right?
You've made me realise that I need to be a bit more weird and less weird. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my
I
writing...
think melodically less weird.
That's it. So melodically, I used to write songs that were just really odd and like not very catchy or not very, I should say, sonically appealing. And you've tamed that. And
There's a level of like you don't want it to be predictable, but you want it to be.
There's a happy level, yeah. Yeah, and you just write totally. You'll use words that I'll be like, no, I don't like that, and then you put it in the song and it's incredible. Like, yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of. Oh yeah, that does sound good. A bit like with our new song "Drive." I remember that I wrote this like dun 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 on a little keyboard. It sounded terrible.
Yeah.
But I knew in my head, I was like, this is going to sound great when it has layers and when it has... And you were just like, take that out, that sounds terrible.
Awful. And like the best moment, people like our friends have gone, oh, my favourite moment on the record is like this synth in Bodyguard. It's like really out of tune and horrible. And I remember that being made and I was like, oh, well, that's awful. We cannot put on there, that on the record.
Our drummer is like, it's my favourite bit.
Yeah. And Anthony's like, yeah, I told you so. You should
stick with it.
Yeah. So
and
we've expanded each other's boundaries, basically.
Yeah.